How's it going, guys? I know it's been a while since the last time we did a video, so I hope you're all doing well. Right now is middle of May. Ahis are starting to come around. Typically middle of June, late June, ahi season really kicks off. But the last few years, it's been starting early, and I wanted to talk to you guys about fishing mindset. Since we pretty much covered hooks, lines, what color lures, what type of lures. Now I'm gonna try and help you guys with some fishing mindset. As the saying goes, give a man a fish and you can feed him for a day, but if you teach him how to fish, catch plenty of fish for himself. So we're gonna try and get into some of that today and try and help you guys out with your fishing mindset. So you can apply this to all types of fishing, but I'm gonna be specifically talking ahi fishing for this, and then also where we fish on the west side of Oahu most times for ahis. There's gonna be a little more because that's my area. I'm gonna talk about that a lot. But again, you can apply this to wherever you are, and a lot of times, a lot of different types of fish. But I'm gonna specifically talk about our grounds. So. First of all, I want to talk about how I used to fish, and a lot of you will recognize this. So, our harbor is kind of, let's just say, smack dab in the middle there, Waianae Harbor, and out on this side, you got Bio Buoy, and then out on this side, you got Seal Buoy, and then in the middle here, you got a pinnacle, and this is about 16 miles. I think this is about 20 miles, and this is also about 20 miles to there. You guys see that? Let me get a different pen. Let's see if we can see that. Okay, so that's the harbor. That's about the pinnacle. Bio Buoy is out to this side, and try to draw it bigger for you guys. Seal Buoy is kind of out on that side. So what I used to do a lot of times before is, you'd hear to the grapevines, oh, he's biting on the west side. Yeah, let's go tomorrow. Okay, so we get down to the harbor. The harbor is completely packed. All the guys know that the ahis are biting, and then we launch our boat and we get out there and we drive out. Maybe we go to the pinnacle and we look around and we're like, shit, we're out of boats there and I don't see no fish. Well, I heard some guys catch ahis at Bio Buoy. So then we turn the boat, we drive all the way across the Bio Buoy area and we look around here. No more nothing over here. I still don't see no boats all day, maybe 2 or 3. And then since BO doesn't have anything, we drive all the way back across, check out CO Buoy. By this time it's late in the afternoon and you got an 18 to 20 mile run back to the harbor. And no ahis. I cannot tell you how many times I did this, this type of fishing. Or I'm going out, I'm fishing over here, and then I hear, oh, somebody caught fish at, by Nanakuli, and I drive here. Oh, somebody caught fish on the Ahi Seal side, so then I drive back across. I basically spend my whole day traveling from spot to spot to spot and never really soaking one zone. So kind of try to keep in mind that you're kind of looking for a needle in a haystack in a sense, and if you spend all your time traveling, even if there were ahis here and there were ahis here, you spend hours making this run 10 miles, 12 miles, 50 miles to get from one spot to the other, and you basically waste a lot of your day. I gotta get a rag, I'll be right back. So again, I can't tell you how many times I've done this and spent the whole day just basically traveling. Um, and you can catch fish like that, but it's not a good way to consistently catch your ahis. So um, again, I'm kind of talking here if you're one of those people who specifically are trying to catch an ahi. Maybe you're trying to catch your first ahi and you're really focused on catching just an ahi. I'll give you another scenario. This is the way my dad fished a lot when I was growing up. And he would fish on the south side of the island, which is H.H. Buoy out here about 18 miles. And then it's up there, so B.O. Buoy would be right around here. And my dad's normal run would be, he would go straight to H.H. And granted, this was years ago, so there was pretty much always fish at H.H. And he'd catch his mai-mais, or his shibis, or his akus, put some fish in the boat, and then there would be a pinnacle out here that he would either check, and then after that he would slide down. And anytime we caught an ahi, it was normally during this run from out and back to the harbor. Sort of like if they were there, they were there, and we'd catch them, and if they weren't there, it wasn't a high priority. The priority for my dad was always to just catch fish to eat, which, I don't know, I think I said this before, but it's catch so much mai-mais and shibis that I think that's why these days I'm not really interested in that. So, but this is a way, if you're one of those people who would say like, oh, what is your best lure for catching ahis? And I'd be like, okay, well, or what is your best lures? And I say, well, what should I catch? And a lot of guys will say, oh, I like catch an ahi, I don't like catch ono, I don't like catch mai-mai. So then this would be a better plan for you. Now the plan I'm gonna go over is specifically, again, if you are tunnel vision and you just wanna get that first ahi or get more consistent at catching ahis. Because again, you can catch them this way, but this is more like a chance encounter. You might run into an area or a pile out here or in between here, and catch one or catch two. But if you run this pattern all the time, you're not going to consistently catch ahis. So take this out. So pretty much the way I fish them, and a lot of the people that I know fish it, they do what's basically called mowing the lawn. And tell you a story about when Keola, who handles all our gear, when he first kind of started fishing with us, it was winter time and we were baiting the porpoise for ahis. And then summer started to roll along, and I think it was our first or second trip that we actually were trolling lures for ahis. And we came out that day. I think we were not super late, but it was like just starting to light up when we got into the area, and I had seen a boat hooked up here and then another boat hooked up here, and they were both fighting ahis. And this is like maybe 6:30 in the morning, and there were just boats all over the place. This was right in front of Waianae Harbor, and relatively close, like 8 miles. I would say there was 15 boats in that area, and 2 guys hooked up. I watched them both put ahis into the boats, so I kind of hung around to make sure. A lot of times you can tell if guys think they're fighting ahis, the boat will be stopped, and if they're fighting something else like a big marlin, then the boat will be moving. So that's a sign that, you know, if you're in the area or not. So what happened that day with Keolo was, I think only those 2, maybe 3 guys were hooked up in the morning. And then as the morning went on, all the other guys started to move off and go look for fish in other places. This guy caught his fish, he probably went in. And this was a charter boat that I knew, he was working the area. And this was right in front of Waina Harbor. It was a nice day, so by 10 o'clock the water's flat calm, there's no birds around, it looks completely dead. And I just worked this area all morning. And I also marked a massive bait ball in that area as well. But we got no bites. And then came around lunchtime, Boom Boom, which is a big charter on our side, he had to go in, drop off his morning charter, and then he was coming back out. Now this was about 1 o'clock. He was coming back out. We were still in this area. He came out here and he hooked up again. And I was like, what the hell? He's hooked up again. And I watched him and he boated another ahi. Boated that fish, and for whatever reason, he went out here because there was a cluster of boats out here and I could see a big bird pile. And a lot of guys that were in here had moved out there to work that bird pile. And Keola and I just stayed in here. Boats would come because it was right in front of the harbor, pass through, you know, here and there, but nobody was really working that area. And I didn't know what was out there. I just knew there were a lot of boats and there was a bird pile. But I knew that I saw 3 ahis come up in this area and there was bait there. So I just worked this area back and forth, in and out, up and down. And then finally, at 3:30, we're making a down sea run right on the inside of where these guys had hooked up, and the rigger came down. 1 bite, we landed that fish, put that ahi in the boat, and went home. And Keola was surprised. She was like, oh, if I wasn't fishing with you, I would have never stayed there. And I told him, you know, the reason why I stayed here is I knew the ahis were here. That area had been good for a couple of days, and it was just a matter of waiting. One of the guys that kind of taught me how to ahi fish in our area would say, like, ahi fishing is kind of like waiting in line at the Manapua store, where you take one of those tickets and then you just wait for your number to get called. So if you stay in the area, then you're gonna get Manapua, and if you leave, then you're not gonna get Manapua. So that day, come to find out, I talked to a couple of these guys. That pile, although I think maybe 1 or 2 guys caught, most of the guys out here caught akus. And I wanted to stay away from the crowd, and I also wasn't interested in catching akus, so I worked that plan. So I'm gonna kind of talk you guys through how I set up that playing field. Now, that area that we mowed our lawn is, I kind of consider that my playing field. So, you know, CO has a playing field, EO has a playing field, Nanakuli has a playing field, the Pinnacle area. Basically, any area can be a playing field, but what I tend to do is I get information from my friends, and it's normally in miles and degrees. So they'll say, oh yeah, I caught 1, 2, 3, 30 degrees, 10 miles. So, which is that area. Or if you're coming out and you saw somebody or 2 guys hooked up in an area, I know that, let's say this mark is your playing field. So as I come into this area, I see, oh, this must be the area. Those guys hooked up already. I basically put a mark, either a waypoint or a man overboard mark right there, and I label it 30 at 8 miles. Now I put my cursor or my waypoint on here as if this is where I'm navigating to, and I work a 2-mile radius around that mark. If I'm chasing a bird pile or something in that area, I might push it out to 3 miles, but most times if there's birds around and there's ahis in it, they'll just kind of circle this area. That's one of the ways you can tell the difference, if it's an aku pile or if it's a ahi pile, or if there's ahis in that pile. There's a lot of times the akus will just, the bird pile will just kind of move on through and keep going with the current. Whereas the ahi piles, the birds will pop up here and then they'll sit down, and then they'll pop up here and then they'll sit down, and they'll pop up here and then they'll sit down. You can find ahis in this aku pile that's just running through your area, but if you chase that, it's gonna lead you out of your zone. So I kind of, if it's a good pile and I'm working at it and I look, I'm like, oh shit, I get 3 miles already from my mark. I used to leave that pile, I turn around and I come back into this zone. So I'm basically fishing a 2-mile radius around here, because if I'm out here 3 miles and for whatever reason the ahis are here, that's a 6-mile gap already that I'm dealing with on my playing field. So I don't like to stretch it much more than that, personally. Okay, so now, how can I do this for you guys? I'm going to draw the zone bigger now. So in our area, the wind kind of comes sort of this way, and so does, the swell. How I like to fish the zone, or how I was taught to fish the zone, is I come up here and I run the boat down sea. And this is where, a lot of guys ask how fast I go when I fish for ahis, or when we fish for ahis, and I like anywhere between 4.5 and 6 knots. And I'll just work my way down sea. I get to the end of my zone, I turn the boat around, I point it straight back up sea, and I run up. Now obviously sometimes you don't want to go over the exact track, so then I kind of turn out here, and then I'll work my way down sea. And then I'll run back up sea, and then I'll work my way. And so I'm basically mowing, that's what we mean when we're mowing the lawn. And the reason why you kind of zigzag back and forth and slow down, like when I'm going back to the start, I'm probably at like 8.5, 9 knots, because I'm not really considering this fishing. I'm just trying to get back up here. And then when I come back down sea, that's when I slow the boat down and I kind of do these sort of S turns so that it's a longer line. Like if you was to measure this line and measure this line would be a lot longer. Sorry, they're closing the gate on the business next door. But the reason why you want to do that is when you're going up sea, you're blowing all kinds of white water, your engine's running harder, there's spray going, your lures aren't really acting the way you want them to. A lot of times the boat's jerking back and forth. But when you're going down sea and you slow the boat down, the white water in the back of your boat is a lot cleaner. The fish can see it better. You can slow the boat down and use the swell to help kind of almost like jig your lures, where you're kind of just putting downstream. And what I tend to do is I tend to listen to my motor, and it'll just be like, and then the wave will push you, and the lures will kind of skate forward a little faster, and then they'll slow down. So you get this kind of push-pull action down sea. I would say 70-80% of the time the bite is down sea. So that's my preferred way of fishing it. And another way would be to go back and forth like this, kind of more like in an in and out pattern in between the swells. And the theory behind that is the fish is, you know, either coming up current or riding the waves, and you're basically trying to intercept them and play Frogger. So I guess the main point of this video is to show you guys that when you're ahi fishing, once you find a zone that looks good or you see other guys hooked up, what you want to do is just mow the lawn in that area, and stay there until you either get a bite or you run out of time. So I hope this video helped you guys. If you guys have questions, leave it in the comments below and I'll try and go over them in future videos. Hope you guys are having a good one, and thanks for your support. Aloha.